we said that we were going to start at 6. It's 6:02. I'm often informed by a council member that clock is a little bit fast, so we'll just say it's 6 p.m. It's not a.m. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see you all here. I know it's summertime. I know we have many adventures and many people on vacation, or students are back home, but you know what? Hey, it's a good day to be here in Lynchburg and to find out actually what the P2P movement has been doing this last year. To those of you who have joined us here in council chambers tonight, we again thank you for coming. And guess what? There are those watching us from home, because there's no excuse not to be tuned into this. They can watch us from home. So thank you all out there in TV land for tuning in. Well, it was just over a year ago that the Vice Mayor and I issued a call to action. Actually, it was on May the 4th, 2017. Why do I remember that day? It was my birthday. So it was a great day, I remember, and we had this call to action from the podium at EC Glass. But right before that, in March, we had a call to action during the state of the city. And we just said, we want you to put you on alert. There's something coming. Stay tuned. And that was the May 4th meeting. So what we did and what we told you all, that we were asking you to come together collectively to find ways to reduce our 24% poverty rate. Since that night, groups, individuals, and organizations have been working together to make a change. Just like with any other journey, there's been some recalibrating. There's been some detours and a few missteps along the way. We'll admit that. We told you we needed your help with this. But I am so proud tonight to be able to stand here and to tell you that there has been great progress in the P2P movement. Tonight's community gathering is an opportunity from the Poverty to Progress work groups to report out about the goals they are working on, and in some cases, what they have already been able to accomplish. And that is wonderful, because some of you all said we were just talking this last year. Well, a lot of talk did happen, but you know, we also needed our community to come together, to put their heads together, to roll their sleeves up, and to get moving. And that is what happened, and you're getting ready to see that in a few minutes. Tonight is my last P2P meeting as your mayor. However, I've made the commitment to myself, to this community, and to all of you all gathered here tonight, that even after I am no longer serving on City Council, I will continue to work with P2P and to be a champion for reducing poverty in our great city. I believe in the P2P, and I know that we will be a better community as we continue to address poverty in our city together. Thank you. Thank you.
I join with Mayor Foster in welcoming you all here. As the mayor said, From Poverty to Progress has certainly been a journey, and we are not at the end. There is still so much more work left to be done, but I am encouraged because so much progress has already been made. It has been extremely rewarding to see the level of collaboration and partnering that has grown out of this effort. Tonight, we want to start off with a brief video that will illustrate this journey we call From Poverty to Progress.
Broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can find a fighter, but I see it in
They say even the longest journey begins with a single step. Sometimes you know how to get where you're going, and sometimes you have to ask others for help. And sometimes the most important thing is to just get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our call to action. It is the first step, probably in a very long journey. Poverty is a community issue, and it will take this entire community to make a difference. We are issuing a call to each and every one of you this evening to rise up. I know that if we work together, all of us, government, faith leaders, nonprofit organizations, schools, private citizens, we can do it.
For you.
Tackling the problem of poverty in Lynchburg isn't going to be easy. More than 20% of our citizens fall below the national poverty rate, and more than 40% of the children in our public schools are identified as living in poverty. Groups like Bridges of Central Virginia, Parkview Mission, Centra, and many others were already working to help alleviate poverty in our community. Although there were many initiatives in the city, there was no overarching vision for addressing the problem of intergenerational poverty. So when City Council decided to make reducing Lynchburg's poverty rate one of its top priorities, it recognized it was taking on an immense task that couldn't be solved by government alone. It was going to take a village filled with nonprofit groups, independent agencies, the faith community, and other advocates to come together to find some solutions.
The time has come for all of us to work together, set actionable goals, and hold each other accountable. No more working in silos. I'm going to repeat that. No more working in silos after tonight. In order to make a sustainable, accountable difference, we must work together.
So in April of 2017, hundreds of people committed to the task poured into the Easy Glass Auditorium to hear more about the newly created From Poverty to Progress movement and talk about how they might be able to contribute. Breakout sessions featured discussions on topics like education, transportation, and childcare, and other issues that persons living in poverty encounter in their everyday lives. The more people talked, the more the walls between different organizations began to come down.
There are things that you have that would keep all those dominoes from falling down. People in poverty don't have that. So they have nothing to stop all the dominoes from falling because one got knocked down.
Since that initial session, the groups have continued to meet on their own. Faith-based partnerships like City Reach, Open Table, and Interfaith Connections are working towards poverty reductions. The Food Disparity Group set a goal of expanding its summer feeding program, and today there are almost 30 locations, including public schools, community centers, and the public library, providing meals for children over the summer. The Housing Group met its goal of creating a housing navigator position in order to assist individuals with the sometimes confusing process of finding suitable housing. They're also creating a database that will help us to understand what our community's housing needs are and to identify potential resources. In partnership with the Greater Lynchburg Transit Company, the Transportation Group conducted a survey on public transportation, and that information was used to assist GLTC in changing routes to better meet the needs of its passengers. The Community Access Network understood that for some individuals and families living in poverty, health care is a luxury. They wanted to see a community in which everyone has the freedom and empowerment to choose the health care that's right for them and their family. And they have made tremendous strides with the opening of facilities like the new 5th Street Community Health Center.
We want to make it clear that this has been and will continue to be a difficult journey. There are no easy fixes to systemic poverty. With that said, the mayor and I are proud of the progress so far, and it is exciting to see a community galvanized to find real, sustainable solutions. If there was an easy fix to this, someone would have found it across the country and around the world. We've got to work hard, and that's what we're trying to do.
1,000 times again.
As we acknowledge and celebrate the achievements to date, we must remember that if Lynchburg is going to be a great place to live, work, and play, everyone must have a seat at the table. Everyone should have the opportunity to make a better life for themselves and their family. And we invite everyone along on the journey.
was pretty amazing, wasn't it? They did that very quickly. So I want to thank communications and marketing for putting that video together pretty quickly, actually. And Joanne, you're the best. And Steve and Phil and all your staff, which isn't very many. I thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you. You are the wind beneath our wings and the words in our mouth. At this time, I must let you know that unfortunately, neither Rashad Jennings nor Anthony Smith with Cities United is able to be with us tonight. Mr. Jennings was called to California on business and was unable to join us as planned. We have extended an open invitation to them to come another day. But you know that saying, like the two of us, the show must go on. And that tonight is what we're doing. We're going on to let you know what has happened and what has occurred.
And we want to remind our audience, those in here with us in the council chambers and on TV or on the website, however you're watching us, we will have a question and answer period. For those who are here in the audience, you may at any time write your question or questions on one of the cards provided on the table in the back, which is right behind the cameras in the back. And you can place it in the box, or you can hand it to one of our city staff members. Can you raise your hand? There you go, right there on the back row, and they'll come get the questions for you. If you're watching from home, you can simply email your question to p2p@lynchburgva.gov, and I'll repeat that, p2p@lynchburgva.gov. We'll be posting that email address on the screen periodically, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible so you don't have to wait until the last minute to get your questions in. All right?
And it's great as people are coming in and the seats in the back, it's this, folks, this is not church. So we can all move up to the front. We're all safe here. So you can let folks know that they can move up front. There's some seats available here and here as folks come in. And we're fine because we want a lot of folks here tonight. In 2016, City Council really showed its commitment to reducing poverty in our community. They set aside $50,000 for the Poverty to Progress initiative. Half of that amount then, and we just did this past year, was set aside for a mini grant program for the P2P program and the subcommittees. On Tuesday, yay, my last council meeting, I got to vote on this, I was so happy. City Council approved the funding for each of these grants. This evening, we've asked each of the groups to report to you on how they intend to spend the grant funds, and there are some other subcommittees who have gotten other sources of funding, but we just want them to update you on all the great action items that have happened this year. After all that talking, which you have to do, there has been quite a bit of action going on, and we're thrilled and are excited about this report out tonight. And our first presenter, actually, and she can come up to the podium, will be Lisa Darby, and she is representing and reporting out on the child care. So come on up, Lisa. We're going to sit over here.
Good evening, everyone. So nice to see so many people out tonight. As Mayor Foster said, I'm representing the Child Care Work Group, and we are one of the recipients of one of the mini grants, and we have identified a primary objective that we want to work on going forward, and we've already gotten a bit of a start on it, I'm glad to say. So our primary objective is to test and develop a pilot child care program. And of course, to state the obvious, there are a lot of child care programs in the city already, but what would distinguish this one and set it apart is that we have the goal of partnering and involving area businesses and the city of Lynchburg. So the structure we have is we've developed 5 focus areas to work on going forward, and they include, number 1, to determine a location and an actual physical space for the program. Number 2, to move ahead with the financial aspects, which would be the annual budget and getting a nonprofit designation and things of that nature. Number 3, to begin to implement health and safety standards to meet compliance with the state licensing regulations. The fourth one is in terms of human resources and staffing the program with qualified teachers and ongoing professional development. The 5th focus area is the curriculum in terms of developing a creative curriculum and educational programming so that we are actually offering preschool education as opposed to simply childcare. And we do have some connection with the education group in terms of that goal. Then number 6, our last focus area is families and services outreach in terms of developing some scholarships, connecting with community resources, kindergarten readiness, and inclusion services. So we do have a project manager in place to drive this whole thing forward. And the next phase is for us to have we do have a committee meeting scheduled for July 10th at Elizabeth's Early Learning Center, and I'd like to invite all the folks that are interested and all of our original members to come out at that time and join us. Initially, we had an active list of 42 members from our initial poverty meeting. It has dwindled somewhat, so we'd really like to recruit and invite folks to come on out and join us on July 10th at 6 o'clock at Elizabeth's. And that's pretty much where we are now. We don't have any additional meeting dates after that, but we're going to continue to move ahead with this, and we'd like, again, to have anyone who's interested join us and get involved with our pilot child care program.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. That was beautiful. Thank you. Now, our next committee was a really big committee. It was, I remember, flowing out into the hallways at EC Glass. It was our education subcommittee. So what has happened over the last year, the education committee has really broken into 2 subcommittees. And the first one is what they call Education One, which I think, and you'll hear about. I'm going to let Dr. Terry Brennan come up and tell you Education One committee, what they have planned for what they have done and what they have planned for the upcoming year. And Mr. Vanderwerker, you can come on up because you education too. So we'll get you all to do the show for the education subcommittee and just start off however you wish.
Well, good evening. Needless to say, I'm not Terry Brennan. This is Terry Brennan. But when Mayor Foster opened up her presentation tonight, one of the things she drew attention to was the whole idea of no silos and volunteerism and a significant number of people on the education committee. So I was, what's the term, John? Voluntold that I'm going to be presenting the work of our team. One of the things that we are very proud of is since day one, there really weren't any silos. And number 2, the collaboration between the public sector and the private sector in the city of Lynchburg continues to be alive and well, and we're very excited. We see that at every one of the meetings that Dr. Brennan conducts. Significant number of people are participating. So our focus turned out to be on maximizing access to pre-K experiences, education within the city. And that has been a real zeroed in, focused on a variety of things. people like our colleagues Dorothy from Head Start, okay, in the back. You want to wave, Dorothy, so everyone can see you? In the public sector, as well as Humankind, Smart Beginnings. We've all worked together to try to put together a plan of action with some pretty significant outcomes. First one is single point of entry. Just think, new family coming into the city, stops by City Hall, and the receptionist has a little card or a little sticker that says, ask me about pre-K education. We're going to conduct a training on September 20th, okay? And it's an awareness session. All of you are invited, and Dr. Brennan has little pamphlets for you to call and register. And what we want to do is expand the number of community members who understand the benefits of pre-K experiences. As you know, it's one of the key ingredients to having children reading on grade level by 3rd grade. In addition, there's significant employment benefits to having children go through pre-K experiences. So in front of all of you, we heard that Mayor Foster might have some time. So Mayor Foster and Councilwoman Tweedy, September 20th, all we need is an hour and a half, okay? And if the rest of y'all are interested, we'd love to have you at that activity.
I'm there.
One of the other goals that we're focused on is to make absolutely certain that children have access to books during the summer and reading activities, instructional activities. And in the summer of 2019, as part of the grant that we submitted that was approved by council, we're going to have that focus as well. We would like to have concrete data about how pre-K age children are doing. In the public schools throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, you can use what's called the PAL screening assessment, and you can get concrete developmental data on the child's reading ability. And with our help through the grant, we're going to be able to extend that opportunity to the private sector so that they can share data with the public schools for education planning. And we really think that the outcomes there for pre-K instruction will be very, very, very sound. Well, Dr. Brennan, Dr. Ken West have been very actively involved in motivating the team to be able to bring about change in pre-K. We'd love to see you on September 20th. All we need is an hour and a half of your time, and there are 3 separate sessions that day. It'll be sponsored by Amazement Square, and we'd love to have all of you there. Dr. Brennan?
And I just want to thank Willis for taking the lead in the single point of entry. Lynchburg City Schools and Lynn CAG have really led the way. And it's a really impressive, powerful group of community volunteers that have come together. We're going to put these on the back table. We'd love to see you at Amazement Square. You can come at 9, you can come at 12, and you can come at 5:30. We want to just deputize as many of you to be available to speak to your neighbors, church members, community members, to say pre-K is not scary. It makes your children more excited about learning. They ask better questions. They play better with each other. So anyway, please be a deputy and an ambassador for pre-K. We'll put them on the back table, okay? Thanks,
Thank you.
Hey, that sounds wonderful. I know, so many players. It's exciting to see. All right, we're moving right along to the Food Disparity Subcommittee, and that's Mr. Jonathan Sussman. We'll do the report. Hi, Jonathan. How are you? Good. This has also been a very active group with a large number of members.
Yes, that is very true. So I joined the Poverty to Progress Food Disparity Group a year ago, and I was amazed at not just the participation of so many people, but the fact that so many people have been concerned about these issues for such a long time. So what I'm going to share with you today is about the grant that we've been approved for, and one of our subgroups as part of the food disparity group is the OASIS project. And the Oasis Project existed for several years before the Poverty to Progress initiative, and very quickly we saw that its goals fit very well with the food disparity group's goals, and so it came as part of that. And we've had the opportunity as the Oasis Project to partner with both a lot of local organizations as well as some organizations like state and nationwide. We partnered with an organization called Virginia Community Capital to get funding for a market study to be done. So the purpose of the Oasis Project is to attract or develop an affordable full-service grocery store into what is known as the food desert. So an area with that's over a mile away from a grocery store, and then also has a large population, a large percentage of people who, because of income level, have to walk or ride the bus in order to get groceries. And so this market study that we were able to attract, to connect with this organization to get funding for, this has now led us to a point where we're having conversations with some different independent grocery store operators about the potential of opening a grocery store somewhere between the 5th Street and the 12th, or in the 5th Street and 12th Street corridor. And so the goal of this meeting that you see that we received this funding for, the Community Progress Report and Forum, is to report the results of a survey that was done before the Poverty to Progress initiative, to update the community on the work that has been going on, so some of those partnerships and those other things that we've been able to accomplish, and then also gather continued guidance and feedback and support from those who would be living in neighborhoods near this one particular site on 5th Street that we're hoping to attract a grocery store to. So we don't have a date determined for that yet. We just got approved for the funding, and so we're going to start planning that. It'll probably be in July or in August. But it's really been incredibly exciting to see so many people, again, like I said, even before the Poverty to Progress initiative, have been involved in really wanting to see all of the residents of our city have access to healthy, affordable food and achieve more food security. So it's really been an honor and a privilege. I just joined as a facilitator in April, so I feel like I shouldn't be standing alone up here. All of my entire team should be here, but it really has been an incredible opportunity, and we're excited for everything that's happening.
Jonathan, thank you. You're a quick learner, my friend. Thank you. And before you start, I really want to recognize our fellow council member, Councilmember Sterling Wilder. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. You're such a wonderful support for this initiative. And I know Councilmember Dolan sends her condolence. She's probably in the air returning as we're speaking from vacation. So she sends her condolences as well.
And Councilmember Nelson also
okay.
had an emergency to come up, so he couldn't be here as well.
So I'm so sorry to hear that. But they're here in spirit, I'm sure. And they've been very supportive.
All right, next we are going to have the Health and Mental Health group with Ms. Dana Wright. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. So our group has had two different goals throughout the process since May. One of those is improving the awareness of health and mental health initiatives in the city, as well as improving access to health and mental health resources. So we would be remiss if we didn't use this opportunity to share some of those resources since it's going out through the airwaves. One item that has been discussed is whether ways that we might can incentivize or encourage our college students to stay in the area to help share those services that they're learning about and graduating with degrees with. And then one of our second initiative is to really work on increasing the knowledges of services that already exist in our community. There needs to be increased communication regarding free services that our community already has and access points where folks can find help at. There needs to be more opportunities for us to listen to our individuals in the city by having more meetings potentially at community neighborhoods and in the libraries so that we have more knowledge of what we actually need to provide. We need to work to ensure that every section of our city has the same access to services. Some of the things that have occurred since May in our city is that the Community Access Network that was mentioned in the video has opened its doors. It's on 5th Street. They're open almost every day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., including the weekends. They do have shorter hours on Wednesday, not the weekends, but on Wednesday. So on the weekends, if someone needs access to health or mental health awareness issues, they can go to that site. The site provides primary care, urgent care, a pharmacy, behavioral health with therapists and case management, as well as some community classes. They take both walk-ins and appointments. So, and you can be insured or uninsured to access that facility. The Johnson's Health Center, you can access mental health services without being one of their primary care patients. They also help offer free transportation to those living in Lynchburg and Amherst. And they also have a new, larger location off of Outer Holt Road as well. That includes both pediatrics and OB/GYN services and a dentist. Horizon Behavioral Health also has admissions located in one place, Langhorne Road, is at their main center, from 8:30 to 3, Monday through Friday. You just walk in to receive access and intake possibilities to find how they can help you better. They also have increased beds with crisis stabilization and detox services at their Cortland Center, and have received a grant to help provide services to both the homeless youth and young adults in our city. As many have heard, Medicaid expansion was passed, so that will help give over 2,000 more individuals access to Medicaid services. So that will be a great help to our citizens as well. A few other items that have occurred is a couple of our committee members are currently completing projects with students to update community resource guides for health and mental health providers and access points in the city, as well as a updated list of support groups offered in the city. At our last meeting, a few other items being discussed are ways to destigmatize mental health concerns so individuals will actually seek the help they need. We've reached out to 211, which is an existing resource, to see what some of their needs may be and if we can help. And then the possible health and mental health awareness event in the community, and maybe couple that with the existing services updating their 211 information. And then the final thing we have also discussed is maybe finding a way to partner with the schools in the area to share information with students and parents like these resource guides that are being updated.
Wonderful. Very busy committee. Thank you so much.
Next, we're going to hear from Housing with Ms. Denise Cruz. Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Denise Cruz. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development at Lynchburg Community Action Group. I have been with the P2P program since the very beginning. I was voluntold, so I don't mind because this is part of my day job. The housing group figured out very early that there would be two goals that we really needed to focus on. The discussion around education and lack of affordable housing seemed to be a constant theme throughout. So we decided as a housing group to get behind two initiatives that were happening within the community. The first was the hiring of a housing navigator. This person would be sort of a go-to person for affordable units within our city that renters could go to try to find affordable housing. I'm happy to say that position was filled. It's housed at the Lynchburg Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Currently, the person is working 1 day a week. They're there on Wednesdays. So you can call if you're looking for housing fair housing rights, tenants and responsibilities. So we're so excited about that. We're hoping to partner with them in the future to really expand, to do workshops, and to really work with landlords on what it means to be a good landlord, what it means to be a good tenant as well, and talk about the fair housing laws that are needed. Second, we decided to get behind the Lynchburg Regional Housing Collaborative. They were doing a study on the housing stock that's in our community. We heard time and time again there's a lack of affordable housing. And so this collaborative, which consists of Lynchburg Redevelopment Housing Authority, Rush Homes, Miriam's House, Lynchburg Community Action Group, and Greater Lynchburg Habitat for Humanity, we are partnering with the Enterprise Foundation to do a study. This study will look at the number of insecure households and housing insecurity by race, ethnicity, income, and household type. It will also look at supply versus demand for homes that low-income renters can have. It will also look at the levels of rental assistance. We hear all the time that the wait list for Section 8 is 2 to 3 years. So we're really looking at ways that we can become inventive and try to help folks be more affordable for their housing. We're also looking at opportunities for home ownerships for families of low-income individuals. I personally manage a down payment assistance program, as well as a CHODO, which will develop houses for first-time home buyers in the city to make it affordable. And finally, we're looking at opportunities for housing quality. What is the quality? We know that rents are high, there's a lack of income in this area, and so we don't want individuals to live in substandard housing. So once we have this study, the partners will get together with the housing group and we will begin the next phase of how do we fix it? How do we all come to the table, and what can we do as developers to really make this community affordable for all?
I also want to remind people to use the card. So if you have questions in the audience, please ask for a card, raise your hand, and they'll bring one to you. Or if you'd like to submit it to p2p@lynchburgva.gov. That's P, the number 2, P, @lynchburgva.gov. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from the legal system and Dr. Veronica Washington.
Good evening, everyone. To Mayor Foster, to the Vice Mayor and the City Council members and all of our distinguished city officials, as well as our community members. We're glad to be here this evening. And while I've heard some of the previous speakers, I got some more questions answered. Well, some more questions and some answers. Lynchburg has numerous resources for our returning citizens. That's how we like to refer to them. The legal team listened to immediate challenges of some of these citizens faced. We attended the Blue Ridge Reentry Council meetings to network. We consulted with Timothy Trent from Blue Ridge Regional Jail. Authority. We met with Interfaith Outreach as well as Virginia Cares members and collaborated with other community entities. Our goal is not to reinvent the wheel or to replicate services, but to assist by providing Lynchburg returning citizens with a one-page First Steps Reentry Guide months before release that answers pertinent questions. Since these citizens are returning at 5 a.m. in the morning, the first thing you want to know is where am I going to eat and how am I going to get there? So that's just one of the questions that can be answered. We were proactive in our efforts. So what we did was we didn't wait for any funding. We went ahead and started on our project This is number 1. This is the first steps reentry guide. On the inside is a little bit of information about everything that's needed, whether it's meals, food pantry, restoration of voting rights, personal care and skills, work skills, health care, housing, transportation, cell phones, all of that. Second chance employment, everything is included in this one pager so that they can get that information ahead of time and use it. We based our information and our efforts on actual interviews and conversations. I'm glad to see Marcus here. He was one of our first persons to come and tell us what the challenges are, as well as Steve, who's behind me, who has been very instrumental in answering questions and telling us what it's like and some of the biggest challenges they've faced and how to address them. The second project that we're working on, and we've started on that also. We didn't wait for money. We just went and jumped in and tried to get something to show you what we want to do. We have prepared welcome backpacks. We have a male and female version, and in that backpack they get some of the basics that they'll need, because imagine being away from the community for months, maybe years, and then having to reestablish, and you don't have any money. So in the backpack is a little bit of everything. We based the backpack filling on a project that's already working very well in Colorado. It's the Reentry Initiative Project. But in these, you have a good start. The third item, or the third part of the project, is to prepare a comprehensive guide that will have much more information that we can sit down one-on-one or have them to go to a workshop to get the information for anything from job skills to reunification with the family members, because that can be difficult after being away for years. So we just want to be able to be a help in the community. Our goal is to assist returning citizens with adjusting to a changing community, to the second chance employment, life skills workshops, family reunification, supportive counseling, and the main thing is to lower the recidivism. We don't want people to go in and keep coming out, go in and keep coming out, if we can assist them in any way to stop that cycle. So that's what we're going to do with this grant money that we have been approved for, and we would appreciate it if the faith-based community and any other community members would donate toiletries or any items that you think would be helpful in filling these backpacks. That's why our grant money is not, our grant amount is not really that high, because we're going to depend on some donations. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to announce our next monthly Poverty to Progress legal group meeting will be proudly held at Community Access Network, located at 800 5th Street, Martin Luther King Boulevard, in the classroom in the front at 6:30, July 12th. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for a second, I'm one of those returning guys after 21 and a half years in prison that didn't have this guide. So I've been joined together with these good folks here to do this type stuff. This is what we need. We appreciate the citizens of Lynchburg. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is what we're talking about, connecting communities
This is
with
it, folks.
resources.
This is
And
real.
sometimes they're very simple ideas, but there are things that make a difference to the folks that need it. So thank you. Next, we're going to hear from our Poverty 101 group, which is Ms. Margaret Schmidt. Thank you.
Thank you, and Good evening. I am representing the Poverty 101 group. Our group is a little bit different in that we are not connected directly with any service providers, don't provide an actual service, but our goal is to raise community knowledge and awareness around the issue of poverty, to help people understand what poverty costs our community. So we appreciate the funding through the grant, and our efforts are focused on 3 separate things. First is to put in place a series of small group discussions around poverty, a Thriving Communities process that is hosted by or supported by Everyday Democracy. So this would be a very similar process to the dialogues on race and racism that the city has supported and hosted in years past. Our second effort is to convene a public event where people impacted by poverty can actually share their stories and be heard by the community. So this is a bit of a gap, we think, that I'm so glad to hear the group before us talk about involving the people who actually are needing the services. We think that the people in poverty in Lynchburg are not having enough of a voice potentially, so we are focusing on an effort to have an event that gives them that voice. And then our third is to develop a personal assessment tool for both citizens and service providers that helps them identify both the risks and the path to a higher level of stability or self-sufficiency across all of the areas that are represented by the working groups. So we are working with all the other groups to identify those risks, and really at 3 levels: someone who's very much at risk, someone who's more stable, and someone who is thriving, to help provide a pathway for people. So those are the things that we're focusing on, and the grant funding will certainly help us do that.
I think that awareness certainly has been raised. I was asked the question today by one of the camera folks, well, what do you think's happened? I think awareness. I think you would have been living somewhere else if you didn't know Lynchburg had a poverty problem. So I think that first goal's really being successful. So thank all of you all for that.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from our transportation, Mr. Gary Booth. Brian.
Here's John, right here.
Oh, is Dr. Salmon?
Dr. Salmon.
And come on up.
Come on with
Dr.
John.
Salmon, too. He's making a grand entrance. Thank you.
Yes, woohoo. Right on cue,
right
John.
on cue.
Yeah, Jay, come on up.
Come
on up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
You're a team here.
There we go.
Yeah.
And they're going to talk about transportation as a team.
You could do that.
Okay. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm Brian Booth. I'm the general manager with the Greater Lynchburg Transit Company, and I've been a co-facilitator with Dr. Jay Salmon as well as Mary Winston from Humankind of the transportation group. And I was sitting here looking at the program when I first got here and noticed that transportation was toward the bottom. And as I'm sitting here listening to everything that the other groups have presented, I thought it was kind of unique that we were toward the end of the program. I think it was done just because it's alphabetical, but the one thing in listening to it, it sounds like that transportation is the key to every group. It touches every group that's in here. Individuals can't get to work. Individuals can't get to child care or get their children to child care. So that's one thing that we found out, and we heard loud and clear at that initial event in May. From that event, we developed 2 action items that we were focusing on. One of them was to conduct a survey of the transportation needs in our community. And the other one was a more, I guess you would call it, thinking outside the box idea of developing a rideshare app that's similar to Uber or Lyft, but is going to be unique to Lynchburg. And Jay can talk a little bit more about that. But I've been focusing more on the survey, and we did at GLTC have some consultants come in October, conducted a month-long survey. We ended up receiving over almost 1,000 responses to that survey, so we got a lot of good data. And we are looking at improving the service that we have. It's going to take time, it's going to take steps, but our immediate response is going to be to change the route structure that we have. First thing that I noticed when I came to Lynchburg was the routes and how they seemed very ineffective in what they were doing, the time that it took to get from point A to point B. Some of those run times would take an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half, which for me, in a city the size of Lynchburg, is just unreasonable. So that's one thing that we've really focused on. The route changes that we have and we're looking at can cut some of the areas that's going to cut some of those run times in half of someone being on the vehicle, getting from point A to point B. We are looking at holding public meetings in the end of July to through the month of August to be able to present the changes that we plan to roll out, hear feedback from the customers and the citizens of Lynchburg to make sure that we're on the right path with those changes. The consultants did some good recommendations, but they're not set in stone. We want to make sure that what we have presented is going to be something that is feasible, is understandable for the individuals who use the service to be able to use. So we're excited about that, to make those changes. And my target goal was to have those changes implemented sometime in October. But again, that depends on our public feedback that we get from the public meetings, and if we have to go back to the drawing board, we may have to delay that, but my target is that we will see some significant changes by October.
I'm sorry I was late. I got here as soon as I could after work, and I admit I thought I would have more lead in, so I apologize for not having sort of anything really prepared. But I think what Brian said really kicks off sort of what we did. This is all very new to me, and I came at it from a medical person's perspective and looking at the hospital system, where we have a lot of disjointed systems to help move patients around the city that are not connected in any way, which seems very inefficient. People have their own particular group that they have become comfortable with, and oftentimes that's leaves them wishing they had better ways to move everybody around. Then as we come here and realize that it really is a citywide issue, it's bigger than this. It's bigger than it really goes through every citizen in the city, no matter what you want to try to do. I mean, having better transportation options is helpful for all of us. So the whole app project expanded on trying to coordinate medical transport, to trying to use new ways to help various citizen groups get around, to trying to create a system where we connect every asset that we have in the city to potentially every person. That really has become sort of the fundamental piece for this app. Used a lot. I don't like to use the U word, Uber, so much. But it was a clever technology that the more I've sort of investigated this, and I actually originally tried to partner with them, now not so much. But that's a taxi company, and it's its own little entity. We have taxis here. We have all kinds of different transportation options. So how can we take everything that we have and maybe even make room for some new things that we don't have now, and to consider every citizen? Because no matter whether you can use a smartphone or not, you still need better transportation. If you're a child, you still need more options to get around. So that was really the philosophy behind it, connecting every single person in the city potentially to every available asset, and opening that up to some new modes like volunteering, and coordinating with things like the city bus system, and whether that's the primary buses themselves or the buses that are for disabled citizens. So how can we coordinate and increase the utilization of those? And the example I would give would be currently, if you want to go to the grocery store on the bus system, it's very complicated. It takes a long time. It can take you over an hour for the wait to your return trip. So if you take a very efficient ride to the grocery store, but then get a whole bunch of groceries and you want to get home, it's very difficult. How do you get those groceries onto the bus? You got to wait. How do you get them from the bus stop to your home? It's just not very effective. If it's not effective, then it's not working. So in this case, what we'll be able to do is take a bus to the grocery store and then potentially have some other means of transportation easily taking you directly back to your front door. That's not as cheap as waiting for 3 hours, but it's effective. And is cheaper than pretty much anything else out there. through all of this, as we've developed this app, I'm pretty confident and very excited about the fact that I don't think anybody else is doing this anywhere. And I think that's global. So the folks that are developing the app are actually in the Ukraine, and they've done a bunch of these sorts of things through Europe and the United States, and they've never seen anything like it. I asked City Council on Tuesday to consider revising our taxi cab laws. Those laws were written in the 50s. If you read through them, it's actually, I don't know whether it's comical or embarrassing, depends on your point of view. But they need to be updated so that we can have drivers that are being paid to or earning a living, helping us get around our city, can all compete on equal footing, that they can be better utilized, that they can make a living out of doing something that we all need. So instead of creating a system that competes with them, instead it's a system that's going to enhance their utilization and cooperatively try to improve what we've got. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's a lot to take in a small amount of time, but also all the little nuances of it came from the meetings here, discussions with Brian, Mary Winston, and hearing all the feedback from just all the different areas throughout the city. So very excited about this. It's taken on a life of its own for me. Probably to, and I think my family will be excited when it's done. So.
Thank you all. Last but not least, we have the workforce group, and Mr. John Hughes IV will give us the presentation on that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Appreciate that. I'm standing in for Bob Levesque, who is in sunny LA right now. So he sends his greetings to you. This group did not apply for a grant, but two things that came out of their meeting over the summer and subsequent meetings at GLASS were to develop a second chance program for citizens returning from incarceration and an employment readiness system for those who needed that service. When they did their investigation, when they went around and talked to people in the city, and you've heard some of that this evening, that the city already has those. The city already has a second chance program that they're working on. For instance, the Reentry Council is working on that. And there are some other resources that are working with employment readiness in our community. So the trick is, or the problem is, again, linking people with the resources that are already here and creating a better awareness of those services in our community. The folks that have been here tonight presenting represent various organizations, various neighborhoods, even some of the organizations that are doing this work every day. So part of our responsibility as a community is to get that word out, to help people know what's here, and to give people a hand up when that time comes. The group determined that there again are several organizations in our community tackling these issues. Therefore, what they're doing now is refocusing energy on creating greater awareness, working to develop mentors, and directing these efforts to the urban core of Lynchburg. We saw that there's a greater disparity in poverty within the urban core of Lynchburg, although there are outliers, but that's some of the places that we are going to focus the energy of the workforce group. We know that workforce and jobs are a primary factor in poverty reduction. So I do look forward to working with that group. I welcome any ideas about how to get the information out for workforce, and I hope that you all will continue to support From Poverty to Progress in your individual ways and your collective ways. Thank you. Peace.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone for all of your hard work and for your diligence with working on your committees. If everyone could just give, this is a lot of work, I'll just say that. The folks who've been meeting all year long on these committees, because you may not always meet with the same people, you're trying to get everybody's schedules together and all of that, but to actually address the issues of our community and persons that face challenges and barriers, they put a lot of effort and energy. Could we give every group, every facilitator a hand clap? And y'all want a stand-up moment, or are you good? Are you good? I'm just kidding. You know how kids in classrooms stand up
They
for
stand
energy,
up
right?
and
No, I'm just
shake it off,
We're just
you know.
kidding. Our next presenter is Keith Cook, and Keith is with Bridges of Central Virginia. And this group has been working together since March of 2016 and has made great strides in the fight against poverty. We are honored to have them with us tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome Keith Cook.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
And John, you teed me up in a minute because we got to talk about some workforce stuff, which is exciting. That also goes with Bridges. I apologize. Can we switch to the timeline? Thank you. Because one of the things that's really important is Bridges. Some of you are probably really familiar with it. Some of you might not be. But Bridges of Central Virginia is really an initiative that was birthed out of research done by Ruby Payne, Dr. Payne, and a book called Bridges Out of Poverty. And actually, the initiative locally was actually started really in Lynchburg with the Department of Social Services way back in 2013. When they were able to train, 150 people on different constructs. Because Bridges is not a program, it's more of a mindset, a perspective, and a set of constructs. And it's really designed to help raise awareness of the unique challenges that people face dealing with poverty, and then engaging people like yourselves in work to help change that. And so that timeline kind of shows where things have evolved. They eventually then did another training in 2014 of 450 people. And then again in 2016, there was an initial training that brought a lot of people together to kind of get a little more organized and motivated and focused. It's very grassroots, so it's just a lot of people getting together, trying to get things done, and it needed some structure. And so there was Bridges of Central Virginia was officially formed, and 90-day meetings started happening, and many of the same subcommittees that Poverty to Progress has were formed to start working on these initiatives. And so I had the honor of becoming the chair of Bridges of Central Virginia about a year and a half ago, and it's been an exciting journey of trying to figure out exactly how to motivate people and engage people in this work. And so then you can go back to that other slide then, thank you. Because there's a few highlights of the things that have been going on in the subcommittees. I'm not going to go through all of those. There's actually a lot of people that are on the Poverty to Progress subcommittees are also on the Bridges subcommittees. And we're doing a lot of similar work. But one of the things I did want to really highlight is the focus of Bridges over the last year for sure has been really about education and then policy. So we've spent a lot of energy and effort on trying to help engage people and make them aware of the unique issues related to poverty. So we've done a lot of training and then a lot of policy work on the institutional level, the community level, and then also ultimately in the governmental level. But so we were able to secure a grant through Lindsay K. Wood, who's I'm not going to, I know in your brochure there it says Lindsay K. Wood. I'm much less pregnant than Lindsay, thank you goodness. But there she is, and through Lindsay's help with the health department, Humankind was also able to get a grant to actually provide about $40,000 grant to provide training, and we were able to train about 300 people in this past year. It's an all-day training. Some of you, who's actually been to a Bridges of Central Virginia training? Yeah, see, look at like a lot of people. Great. And it really kind of helps people not only understand the unique challenges, but just completely changes your mindset of how you view people in poverty, and get you motivated and doing it. So really, like I said, it's not a program, but if there's anything that is even similar to a program in Bridges is the Getting Ahead classes. I know the city's conducting Getting Ahead classes. Other agencies have. Bedford County has been big into Getting Ahead for a long time. So that was the other thing that we were able to actually do with the funding that came through the health department. And we're excited. Actually, last night was our graduation for our first Getting Ahead class. And it's hard. The numbers are tough. You know, it's a small group of people. So you start with a small group of 9 or 10. By the time you're done, we had 5. 2 dropped out, and we don't know where they are. And that's sadly sometimes how it goes. Other 2 dropped out because they got jobs and they couldn't come anymore, and that was exciting. And then 5 graduated last night, and what I'm really excited about, and kind of back to what John was talking about, is one of the great things that happened in the course of this year, too, is where Bridges was able to intersect with workforce development. So Humankind is now the provider of regional workforce development stuff, and John's right, it's sadly the best kept secret in the region. I want to highlight it a little bit tonight because the reality is we can't talk about poverty and reducing poverty and eliminating poverty without talking about employment. And so quickly, I don't have a big presentation on this, and I don't have a lot of time, but the state knows and has been aware for a long time, and obviously Trinae certainly is aware of this with her involvement in the workforce. It's hard to know who's what, and who does what, and where to go. And so the state is coming up with a new rebranding initiative that you'll be starting seeing a lot of stuff about. It's called Virginia Career Works. It's literally the culmination of all the mandated and volunteer partners who have anything to do with the workforce and helping people get training or employment. It's bringing training providers together with community agencies and employers and people who need jobs and need skills. So it's just one common name, one common message, and you're going to be seeing a lot about that. That'll actually be kicking off in September. But I'm excited to say that when working with the workforce subcommittee, we have a lot of great services and programs that are going on. And I know originally when we talked about Poverty to Progress, one of the big goals was we want to identify 50 families and try to get them out of poverty. So I want to highlight something real quick, and then I'm going to step away. But so just the adult workforce development program this past year has served 119 people. All right, 119 people. Of those 119 people, 69 of them have received industry-recognized credentials that they can take anywhere in the country. And of those people who finished those credentials, 44 people, so again, we're talking about the 50 out of poverty, we have 44 people who have to be low income to be eligible for this program, have to be at or below the poverty level and have at least one barrier. Usually they're returning citizens, or they have really long-term unemployment, or maybe even some mental health issues. And of those people, so 44 have been hired at an average wage of $13.38 an hour. Living wage in Virginia or in Lynchburg right now, $12 an hour. So literally of those people, we've been able to actually have 44 people get employed at making almost $28,000 a year. And that's, again, how you do it. You got to get them engaged. But that didn't, it's not one entity doing that. It's everybody working together. And that's what really Bridges is all about. It's about helping all the stakeholders get on the same page and work collaboratively together. And so I'm excited to be here and to talk about that and for all the work that's going on. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Keith, thank you so much. And I know when we talked about not working in silos, we had to walk our talk. We ourselves, the city, and this initiative. So we have been talking. We have been moving together, hopefully in a more connected, collective way. But because many of our members on the P2P have been on the Bridges for many, from the inception. So stay tuned. I think that you will see that more and more of this collective impact, this collective cooperative piece will occur. Now remember, I'm going to remind you again, we will take questions following our last presenters. So if you are here in the audience, and I know Joanne's collecting them, and I really am happy to see there are some cards over there. Feel free to walk over to the table in the rear and in the back there and submit your question. You put it on a card. And if you're watching from home, just send us an email now to p2p@lynchburgva.gov so that we can get those questions as well. Before we go to our next presenter, I would be remiss not to, first of all, recognize our city manager, our deputy city managers here tonight, and a lot of our city staff. Would all of our city staff, leadership team, if you're here tonight, please just stand. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Fortify us. They are there encouraging us. And as you know, our assistant city manager, he's the glue. And we made the commitment when we hired an assistant city manager that half of his time would be dedicated to this initiative. So that is another, I guess, aspect of our city stepping up, being a part of the solution. So John, I don't care if they call you the voluntold chief, whatever, but you are tops in my book because, we've had weekly meetings, and so is the city manager, Ms. Bonnie Severe-Tug, and the vice mayor. Every time we meet, we put this on the agenda. Every time. Poverty update. so that we can stay tuned to this. So it's very fitting that I introduce this next person because we have been searching. Two of us, right from the get-go, wanted somewhere, somehow, where we could capture all this goodness. Capture all of what has happened, and is happening, and will happen. And of course, everyone turns to the web and to a portal. And I turned to the city manager, who in turn turned to Tech Hire, who in turn turned to our last presenter. Is a dear friend of mine, Alex Johnston, and Alex is working with our Tech Hire program tonight. She's going to demonstrate this exciting new website, this wonderful thing, I guess, is located up in the clouds somewhere. Up in the clouds. We have joined the clouds. So please welcome Ms. Alex Johnston.
I'm going to come around in a second. How is everybody? It's never easy to be last, so I'll try to make it quick. But we're going to go classroom style, and I'm going to pass out these to you so you can follow along with us as we show you Empower Lynchburg.
You want to do this one first?
I'll talk for a second first.
Okay.
And then show. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Alex Johnston, and I'm working with the City of Lynchburg to bring all of the incredible work that you all are doing into one space. So we've heard a lot about working in silos and how we are breaking out of those. These Poverty to Progress focus groups have really sort of brought to life the work that we've had in our hearts and in our minds for a long time. And we've had dialogues in the past that have been incredible. It's been meaningful in building relationships with our community members, but sometimes the hardest thing for us to capture is actual action items. So who in this room has heard someone say, "What are we going to do? I'm tired of talking, what are we going to do?" Put those hands up, everybody's heard it. Yeah. So that's the question that we've had on our mind for 2 years. How do we take the passion and the energy in this room and make it something that we can count and that we can invite people to do? Leading this initiative is not up to Mayor Foster, it's not up to Vice Mayor Tweedy, it is up to everybody. And if we want to move the needle on poverty, that is up to everybody in this room, everybody watching at home, and even our neighbors who are living in poverty. It's up to all of us to work together to get this done. So I've given you a card that kind of runs down Empower Lynchburg, but I want to also show you this video that just kind of explains how it works.
Today, nearly 1 in 4 Lynchburg residents are living below the poverty line. Our city has stepped up to address this problem through Poverty to Progress, an initiative aimed at building bridges out of poverty and into economic self-sufficiency. While good work is underway, we're missing a central hub for community members to find opportunities to participate by completing specific tasks. Empower Lynchburg fills this void by organizing and mobilizing individuals who are ready to lend a helping hand. We know that you're ready to turn dialogue into real action steps, so here's how the Empower Lynchburg website works. Step 1, choose a focus area that matches your interest. Step 2, select the task you'd like to complete in that area. Step 3, go out and do it. You'll be contacted by the focus area leader to coordinate the details. Every task our community completes puts us one step closer to raising the median income and reducing poverty in Lynchburg. Our team will track the data and outcomes from this portal and report back quarterly. We invite you to join us in this important work and thank you for being a great neighbor. Now get out there and get to work.
All right. Are you guys running away? You okay with it? All right. There's a couple. It's not. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the website here quickly, and we're just going to do a live demo of the site. So empowerlynchburg.com is where you're going to come. And it's the first thing you see when you come down here is this little message that invites you to take a look at the tasks that need to be completed in our community. As soon as you click in, you see our 3 pilot focus areas. So these 3 areas were selected by the tasks with committee members on the other end who are ready with the catcher's mitt, right? So you all want to complete a task, they're ready on the other end to accept you and to help you coordinate actually getting your action item done. So somebody throw out something you're interested in. One of these three. Come on, y'all, make it easy on me.
One of the three.
All right, workforce. We're going workforce. Here we go. So we're going to click workforce development here. So there are 4 tasks that need to be completed. You can hire a tech hire participant at your company. If you're really passionate about making a profit and doing it with purpose, you can hire somebody that has a non-traditional career background to come and learn on the job at your company and become a valued employee to you. You can speak to a Lynchburg City Schools class about your career path. Did you start, in a path that isn't traditional? Did you come straight out of high school and learn a trade that now you're really proud to be a career member of? You can give a tour of your workplace to a group of students. I just had a firefighter sign up to do this, and so we're going to be coordinating next week for a group of students to go walk through the fire station and learn about what it takes to be a firefighter. Or you can mentor a Lynchburg job seeker. So if you have some spare time on your hands and you think to yourself, I remember trying to put together my resume. I remember trying to, pass out job applications all over town. If you want to give somebody a little bit of encouragement to do that, you can sign up here. So let's say we're going to mentor a job seeker. You simply click on this, put in your name, and you tell us how to contact you. We'll go text. This is my real phone number. Y'all call me if you have any problems with the website, please. I'll be up all night long. And then we hit submit. So you get this message that says, thanks for your submission. And if it requires more information for you to complete your task, the focus area leader is going to be in touch with you in the next 24 to 48 hours. And that's it. So we'll shoot you an email tomorrow and say, thanks so much for signing up. Here's who you can come mentor. Come in and see us at this location, at this time, and that task is complete. So the neat thing about this is on the back end of this website, we can collect all of this data. Now, for those of you who think, oh yeah, I'm going to sign up tonight, and 7 days from now you haven't done it, we're going to send you an email and say, hey, Mary Winston, did you get a chance to do your task? So we will be out there following up with you. So our goal is that we would get a majority of completed tasks. So if you sign up for something, we're going to follow up. We're going to say, how did it go? How can we improve the process for you? If you chose to fill up a little free pantry at the food bank, we'll ask you, could we have provided better directions for you? Was it clear? Was it easy? So the neat thing about this, in addition to collecting all this data, is that it's living and it's breathing. So let's say with the fire at James Crossing last week, if we know that we have 30 citizens who are absolutely in need of backpacks or blankets or clothing, we can put that need up on the site in 10 minutes, and our community can immediately wrap around that need and get those people the help that they need. So we're excited about it. EmpowerLynchburg.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me, text me, find me after this meeting, and we're excited to get going.
So Alex, just a quick question. Sure. Right now, there are just that food insecurities, the work. Let's go back. To the model. It's just a pilot model, but every one of our committees, every entity that bridges, whatever, if they want to sign up for a class it will be on here.
That's right. So if we want to focus on reentering citizens, and Dr. Washington, if you're ready to catch somebody on the other end of this and say, hey, we need citizens to volunteer to donate backpacks or to donate toiletries, we can put that up there today. And as long as you're willing to catch them on the other end and say, this is where you drop it off, we're ready to go.
Are you ready? Yes.
That's great.
All right.
So focus leaders, if you all have tasks that you need completed, please come find me. We can get these up here tonight, really, and we can roll with it. So if you're ready, we're ready.
This is a dream come true. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We are very excited about the possibilities this new web portal opens. Isn't this cool stuff that we're hearing about? Isn't it cool?
Yes.
Yeah. I like to think as a city, collectively as a community, we're going to get some cool points for this, because there are a lot of creative thinkers that have come around all of these issues and created opportunities, technology and others, to meet the needs. So I'm excited. And then you can go online and you can consider what you can do to further the Poverty to Progress movement, okay?
Yes. All right, as Trinae said, we want to encourage everyone sitting here, everyone listening, everyone who will read the newspaper and hear those news reporters, to just come forward and to be part of the solution. we have so many examples and of individuals in this community that just are stepping up to make a difference. And they may not have been officially on a committee, but I'm going to tell you about two of them that to me are just so cool. One of them, we were called by this wonderful, wonderful citizen in our community, Miss Mary Payne. And Miss Mary Payne had already gone out on her own and partnered with a group called I Am Care. It is Dr. Waller's a board group. And they came together and they wanted to teach, it's called Steps to a Healthy Family Life, to families who are living in some of our catchment areas that are in our housing developments. And they have already had 2 classes. They've had their graduation, and they are taking a little break over the summer, but they're gearing back up. And if Miss Mary Payne, and I don't want to tell her age, but this is an ageless venture, because she could just be at home doing her thing, but no, she became part of the solution. And then in early spring, Pastor Jonathan Falwell called a group of faith community folks together to EC Glass just to come out. We were getting ready to go into the budget session. It was March. And he asked them to come out to give us prayers and strength. But at that meeting, he stood up and he said, there will be no child who will go hungry in this community ever again. So that group of individuals came together, faith communities from all parts of our community and all denominations. And I'm happy to report that coming up this school year, that every child who needs a backpack will have a backpack for the weekend filled with food. They will not go hungry. And that may be as many as 600-700 students. But our churches are partnering together to make sure that any school that's near a faith community, that faith community will take that project on and make sure that those children go home with backpacks with food to sustain them over the weekend. Now, to me, that's action. It doesn't come out of a particular committee, and it doesn't have to. There are just 2 examples there. So, there are many efforts, both big and small, being made throughout this community. And we are deeply, deeply appreciative, and I'm very humbled to see what a difference a year makes. What a difference a year makes from May 2017 to June of 2018. You heard some of the differences tonight, and I know our open table folks are here tonight. They're going to work with families for 1 solid year with volunteers who sit at their tables throughout the city. I hope that there will be many, many who will sponsor these tables, and they will wrap their services around individuals and families in this community who just need that hand up. So, it's time to answer questions. So here, you're going to give us the questions, okay?
Mayor and Vice Mayor, since we have quite a few questions, I'm going to ask the facilitators, the ones that it's directed to, maybe come up in groups. That's so awesome. We save a little time. So if we could have Ms. Dana Wright, Ms. Denise Cruz, Ms. Margaret Schmidt, Willis Vanderwerker to come up, and we'll ask these questions.
Y'all in the hot seat.
The first question is for Dana Wright, who's with the Health and Mental Health Group. Can you work out a schedule to allow people to speak at the meetings so neighborhoods will have the information? And is drug abuse a part of this program, and to what extent?
Yes, we can work out a schedule. We can work with communications and marketing in the city to try to put our scheduled meetings up on the website so that community members can know and come out and talk with us and share their concerns and needs that they're seeing. Substance abuse is talked about during the meetings as well. So please follow back up with us and we'll get that information out on the website.
Ms. Cruz is with housing. You mentioned how-tos for landlords. What would it consist of and the responsibilities?
What makes a good landlord? There are several things that landlords can do. The first is know the laws. Know Landlord-Tenant Act laws. There are often times where landlords will actually break the law, intimidate the client, and the client does not know their rights, and so they actually leave prior to going through the court system. Next, make repairs. When a tenant calls, be responsive. If it's not an emergency, let them know. Just open communication will be extremely helpful. And follow through on the repairs that you said you were going to do. Next, keep the lines of communication open. Every tenant wants to be heard. You don't need to harass them. You don't want to be harassed as well. But keeping lines of communication open. Making sure that if you're going to be away, there's a way that there's a backup if they can be called. We're all in the age of technology. When a tenant moves in, give them an email. That'll cut down on your phone calls. So if there's a way that you can set up a system where a tenant, if there's an issue, they can send an email. And that way there's also a paper trail. Finally, respect the tenant's privacy. Make sure you aren't going in before 7 and after 9, and giving tenants appropriate notice that you're going to be on the, in their apartment or house. Next, listen to the tenant's concerns. Everybody wants to be heard and understood. So if there's an issue between two tenants, try to be the mediator, but make sure that everyone feels valued. Finally, show a little compassion. If you're willing to work with that tenant, things might happen. They might have lost a job. There might be an illness. Try to let things slide within reason. Some properties have no visitors after 7 days. It might be a family member who lost someone and might need a place to stay. They might have gotten behind on their rent because they lost their job. They might have gotten sick. Try to work with that tenant and you'll get a better tenant and you'll have a better outcome.
You need to go back to the podium. We have another for you. Let's see if I can kind of paraphrase this. The question is about housing. What about returning citizens, as people who have come from incarceration, and the elderly? There's not enough bedroom, one-bedroom apartments, or for apartments for the disabled. Would that housing navigator be able to help someone in that situation?
I believe they would, but we do know that there is a housing shortage. There are rules and regulations for folks who are coming back, folks who are re-entering into the community. If there are private landlords who are willing to step up, we can get on the app, that's a need. So we can put that on the Empower Lynchburg app, as well as elderly. A lot of times we have elderly individuals who are living in these very large houses and they are really living in 2 to 3 bedrooms. You know, as a community, if you can take a look out for your neighbor. You know, a lot of them need repairs, such as a roof. If you got skills, you know, look to your church. Take them a meal. Stop by just to say hi. So that's a good way for you to get involved with your elderly as well.
This next one is from Margaret Schmidt with Poverty 101. Can you put out a flyer that can be distributed to the general public, that can be given out at neighborhood watch groups?
Yes. Our actions are focused on engaging the citizens of Lynchburg in a wide variety of ways. So the personal assessment tool that I talked about is an informational piece that will be available to the general public. Our goal is to put it any place where people will let you put a stack of flyers. So we do intend to do that. Our group meets the second Tuesday of every month at the Public Works, to the generosity of Public Works. We meet at 1700 Memorial in the Public Works meeting room there. So we would love to have people who have great ideas like that come out and join us. We, like some others, have had some attrition in our group, so we really would like second Tuesday of every month.
So if you ladies would like to be seated, we have several for Willis. We'd also like to have Brian Booth come up and John Hughes the fourth.
And since we're going to do education, I'd like to welcome Dr. Crystal Edwards, who is standing in the back, our superintendent of public schools. Dr. Edwards, would you like to come sit? Would you like to come sit? I thought you were going to make me come up. Oh, no, we're not going to put you on the hot seat.
Dr. Edwards, depending on the questions, I may have to ask you to come on. I know you do.
Okay. For education, are you familiar with, I believe this is Barb's Books? These are books given to every preschooler 3 times a year in the fall, winter break, and at the end of the school year, done in honor of the late Barbara Hutchison, I'm sorry, I believe it's Parks. Well, Parks.
Yes, we are very familiar with that, and Barbara was a significant change agent and advocate for early learning for children, and it's that the subcommittee is very well aware of that and is making those resources well known. That is an example of the types of things that we will be presenting to those of you that are willing to come in and be pre-K ambassadors, because the information sessions that we'll be conducting on the 20th of September are really geared to give you as much information as possible so that when you encounter community members and new families, that you'll be able to say, by the way, Barb's Books, by the way, you've got Head Start, by the way, you've got private preschool as well as public.
The next question for education, in the child care issue, what about transportation and what about the cost? Are those things being considered?
So there is a child care
Lisa Darby
group. Lisa, do you want to comment on that? While she's thinking through being put on the spot by Willis, okay, and you, okay, the pre-K group is aware of challenges with transportation. Keep in mind that, Dorothy, when you're in Head Start, transportation's provided, okay, and then when you're in a pre-K program under Dr. Edwards, then Lynchburg City Schools provides that transportation. The private sector, I'm not sure how that works.
It just varies individually from center to center and program to program because they're privately run. So we don't have that as a specific action item as part of our plan going forward, but we can connect with the transportation group and see what we can come up with.
Come on up, yes, come on up, come on up, come on. See connections, that's what it's all about, folks.
So it's questions like this that that I've listened to. So there's a place for every potential citizen on there, whether they're a child or a parent that has to transport a child that's in a booster seat or a car seat, things that weren't really considered when legislation related to things like taxis was created. So this will give an opportunity. For instance, if we had volunteers who would wanted to donate that time, it gives an opportunity for us to create different transportation sectors that will enable us to move folks like that around. So,
Wonderful.
I don't know if that explains it or not.
That did. Yes, it did, thank you.
I think the last question for you, Willis, is this was about the mentoring program. Is this program, what is the age group that this program will be aimed at? Is it for younger kids or teens?
Mentoring program?
In the, it's that, Dr. Jones?
The tutoring impact and achievement?
I'm not familiar with that. That's not part of our education group for pre-K.
This is the early childhood. This is the second group that Dr. Jones could not be here tonight, and I think others in that facilitation group could not be because of vacations.
Right, but what I will do is what we've learned as you work through all these activities is that you make sure you get answers. So I'll touch base with Dr. Jones tomorrow, and we'll get that information to John to be able to make that available to the public, okay?
So John, how could we make that available to the public on the website or Empower Lynchburg or?
Website.
Website? Okay, so whoever asked that question, check the website, and I know they're working on it. Finding mentors and tutors is a little bit of an arduous task. And I know that, I think I read these grants, that the funding for that is researching and looking into that particular piece. That is a little bit of info I have on it.
That's all we have, putting on the spot.
All right, thank you.
For Brian Booth, how will the GLTC customer base be made aware of upcoming community meetings, dates, times, and locations? And will locations be on the bus routes?
Yes, locations are going to be all along the bus routes. We're planning to schedule them throughout the city to make it easier for citizens to attend a meeting that's close to their home. They'll be at varying times throughout the day, morning, noon, and as well as the evening. What was the first part of that question about it was a bit about making them aware. We'll have it posted on our website, all our social media outlets. We will also post flyers on the vehicles, and we'll even work with the city to push it out on the city's website and any media outlets that they have as well. I know Channel 10 and Channel 7 I did some interviews with them, and they are keeping in touch with us to be able to push it out there as well. And they're giving me the thumbs up in the back of the room. So.
And I think our faith community, the groups from our faith community, like Lighthouse, and Jonathan's group, and Dr. Coleman's group, I'm sure they would step up and spread the word as well.
Okay. That's okay.
Next for John in Workforce Development. When I first moved here, there was a company that opened up, I believe this says at 5 o'clock, for jobs throughout the city for the unemployed seeking jobs daily. Can we get that back? I think this was a company that would hire people like for day jobs and things.
Okay, so the question is related to having someone who does that after 5?
No, can we have, I think that company is closed with the person who's, and so they're looking for, if someone is looking for a job, day jobs like that, can we bring it back? It wasn't the city of Lynchburg that operated that.
Well, the general answer is, the market drives what we do in terms of workforce. We have a lot of opportunity here to create jobs. We have entrepreneurial programs. I say that we need to network more. We need to build that social equity within our society, within our community. And there are people here who do the hiring. We need to get into those rooms. I hear from economic development a lot of the time that things change with the snap of a finger in workforce. We have misinformation out there about jobs that are available, and I jokingly send that to Margette and sometimes to Alex, and I get these emails that say 5,000 jobs opened up in Lynchburg. That's really not the case. The other thing is that if you Google jobs or you go to somewhere like some of the job sites, people can just like they put the job up there, they have to take it down. Doesn't happen all the time. So you're going there, you think you're applying for a job, you put your application in, and then you never hear back. On the one end, you think, well, a lot of times we apply for jobs and we just don't get them. Sometimes the truth is the job wasn't open to start with. So there's the things that we deal with the city and that all of our citizens deal with when they're looking for jobs. Whatever the issue is with a specific gap in service, that's what we're trying to really fill with our programs, with the focus on workforce, and developing those mentors is not only a one-on-one for the people looking for jobs, it's other mentors that are familiar with business owners, things that Margette, Economic Development, Alex and the team do as well with Tech Hire, but developing those one-on-one real opportunities for relationships with people who make decisions on whether they're going to hire you or fire you. We know that sometimes, even though we don't have to check the box, if we see, for instance, and we do a background check, that's just like having the box on there anyway, because they may throw your application in the trash. Those are the things that we need to change. So I think that relates to your question in that there's a greater community issue about what workforce and job hiring looks like in the city of Lynchburg, and that's something that we need to fix. So I hope I answered your question, whoever asked that.
Vice Mayor also
If I
has a
could
question.
just follow up too, and I'm not sure of the particular company that closed. So one, this is an opportunity to tell a company that would give day-to-day jobs that we may have a need for that in Lynchburg if they wanted to come open one. But also, I know the companies need skilled workers. And so one thing that we encourage in workforce is that people take the time. I know there's immediate need of money to meet bills, to meet living expenses. But people also have to become more engaged in making sacrifice and providing the time to get the skill sets needed to provide careers and not just job to job. Because that's a lot of what's going on. We have a lot of service industry jobs in Lynchburg, and we have a lot of skill set jobs or employers who need particular skills that require folks to go back for additional education. And so the education and training is being made easier and more available to people through smaller cohort programs that they can spend a little time in training, learn the basic skills, and then move into a job with a company. But again, it may be, and Mr. Keith Cook is here, and so if he could come up and maybe just give an example of what we're talking about when we say we want people to get into careers and not just jobs.
And while he's coming up, I'll tell you, I work for Lynchburg Beacon of Hope, and we are working in the schools on this very issue from the elementary, middle, and high school level to make sure that children are well informed about what's out there, what skills are needed, what technical programs are needed in our community, and what's available here. We have a wealth of educational opportunities here.
Yeah, and what is exciting is, obviously unemployment rate right now is really low. That's a good thing. I can talk really loud, but I'm pretty loud. And that's exciting, but what comes with that then is the need for higher skilled labor. And so we meet with businesses literally daily. I'm meeting with employers who come to us and say they need, 5 welders, they need 10, people who can do this and do that. And the reality is the skills aren't there. And so we are working closely with training providers and other industries to make sure that those skills are there, but people need to be aware of it, and they need to be able to take the time and take it. Because Trina's right, they'll come in and they want a job tomorrow, and okay, well, they have no experience, they have multiple barriers, they have no skills, and so we're working with a unique one, and I'll share this, and I'll share it really as a learning experience for us. We would love to see it be more successful. I won't say the company's name because that's not necessary at this point, but we're working with a local manufacturer. We're on our 3rd round of this now, and so we've gotten together with job seekers, again, especially people who have barriers, and a company who's willing to pay them, start them at $14 an hour. They literally come in and are a part of either our workforce program if they meet the eligibility requirements, or anybody can come to this program. But they'll come actually and receive really specific work readiness training and really specific technical training through VTI, which is one of the local places, and also with Central Virginia Community College. They literally go through an 8-week training, and if they make it through that training and all the other things that happen, they literally graduate from the program on Friday. They start work on Monday. So what's hard is we've had about 12 people go through this program so far. Only 5 are still employed. And that's the other reality with the people that we're serving. So we had several who were drug tested before the program started, and we put them into the program, and then 3/4 of the way through, the company said, well, we need to do it again. And before they start, and sadly 5 failed the drug test. And so we're working diligently with people to help them understand the needs and expectations. But the reality is there's plenty of skilled jobs out there. There aren't enough people to fill them. And so working together to help them get those skills. But we are looking at creative ways to do that. We actually have another whole round. That company literally right now is looking for about 25 people. We just had a job fair. It's hard to call it a job fair because it's really a training fair at the Employment Commission yesterday, actually. And we have about 15 or so in the pipeline that are hopefully going to go through it again. We're trying to look, we're learning. So we're realizing that some people who are coming from the struggles of generational poverty especially aren't ready to go from where they are to 40, 50 hours a week welding at, a local company. And so we need to work with them to address those things and plug in places like Open Table and these other places that can provide that support that once they get employed can do it. But there are a lot of these programs out there. And again, Virginia Career Works, it's at the VEC building, what's called Region 2000 Workforce Center, but you can come there and get the information. There's an online orientation that I'm really afraid to mention here because we're getting bombarded with people, but if you go actually to Region 2000 Works/orientation and watch a 15-minute video, you can actually get all kinds of, you fill out a little form and then we'll be contacting you, and there's all kinds of different services that we can help connect you with as far as the workforce issues are related.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, Keith.
If we could have Alex come forth, there's a question about the website. There's several questions I guess I can answer. One is the video, The Journey, which we played it in the beginning of the meeting, available online. It is not tonight, but it will be played back. This entire meeting will be played back, and we'll send out a press release to let people know, and also post it on our website to let you know the schedule when this will be replayed. Also, does the city website have a listing of all the P2P group meetings? It does not, but if the groups would send that information into John, we will be more than happy to post that information.
I will say what we're trying to do is develop an interactive calendar on the website. So once we are able to do that, then it would be a little easier to just click on the month and see what meeting is going to happen.
For you, Alex, how are you going to keep the internet site Empower Lynchburg from being political, since poverty is so political?
Great question. What I'm trying to imagine what they might mean by political. I think, the action items that we have here, filling a little free food pantry, mentoring a job seeker, I'm not sure that falls on either end of the spectrum. So for us, we want to give people the opportunity to lend a helping hand. Certainly not in a political way, but we're just addressing the direct needs of the community that we hear from the community. So all politics out of that. And just a note to the focus group leaders, if you all have meetings coming up, please let us know, and we would be happy to add an announcement bar across the top of our site like we did for tonight's meeting to let people know about that meeting on the day of. Was that the only question?
Yes.
Okay.
Last meeting for the mayor or the vice mayor. Do you know when the next back to school event will be held and where?
I was told today, August 4th, at E.C. Glass High School, I think right outside the stadium steps and right out there on the lawn area. The auditorium, I'm sorry. Right outside the auditorium. I graduated from Glass, I should know that, okay, sorry. But from 10 to 2, so from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on August 4th is a back-to-school rally, excitement and energy for all of our students and families in the city of Lynchburg. So they're looking for volunteers, groups, to assist with that. And so Ms. Ethel Coles is the, I'm not sure if it's, I'm looking at Ms. Ethel Coles and Dr. Edwards. So.
Anything you'd like to add?
Anything you would like to
Please
add.
feel free. Stand up, ladies, and just let her rip. Come on up.
Feel free to come up. And I hope everyone understands this. It's a formal meeting, but it's a very impromptu because we want people to have the information and the actual what's going on and what's occurring in our city. So,
and that was the goal of tonight. That's why we chose this format, because we want you to know that your government and this city hall, this all belongs to you. You make it happen with your taxpayers' money. So we want to make sure that you feel comfortable coming to City Hall, you feel comfortable coming to meetings like this and speaking up and speaking out, of course in a respectful way, but we welcome that. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms.
Good evening,
Reeves.
and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Ethel Reeves, and if you would like to help us by volunteering on August 4th, then please give me a call, 434-515-5048.
Could we put that on Empower
Sure you could.
Lynchburg site?
You could. And
All
this
right,
is an
Alex,
opportunity
there's
for us
another
to engage our families, our students and our families. We will also help our families with registration. We also want you to know, just as Mayor Foster said, with our city, we also want that same climate with our school system. So this is an opportunity for folks to come out. Our schools will line the lawn, and we'll be there to really greet the community. So 515-5048.
Yes. Come on up. Come on, Dr. Edwards.
Thank you. I'm glad she gave her phone number, so thank you. She is our spokesperson. I also want to say, I mean, it's our back to school event, and it's for families who are registering kids and have kids in our school district. But as we talked about our early learners, if you have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old who will be coming to our school, not necessarily this school year, maybe next school year, it's an opportunity to come out and meet our principals and engage with our, the staff that's there, our teachers, and just get a feel for the school. You don't have to wait until it's my time to come to school to learn about the schools. We are your schools in your community, so please feel free to bring the little toddlers out. We love to see them as much as we want to see our students come out as well. So I did want to offer that opportunity to everyone. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The only other thing, we just want to remind everyone, there is a resource table in the lobby with a lot of information about the new website, Empower Lynchburg, as well as the City of Lynchburg app, Lynchburg Alerts, the emergency system. So please stop by the table, and of course the reception out. Back over to you.
Well, we're at the point where you're having closing remarks, and I'm going to let you go first. And then I'll go. Okay. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank all of those who've worked all year with us. The journey is not over, but you've seen a glimpse of the links and the connectivity that we've tried to put in place over the year. We've asked people to help with the challenges and barriers that we know it's there. And so as a community, we understood a year ago plus that as city government, we needed to bring awareness. We needed to put people have asked us, what's your skin in the game? Well, we're trying to show you, we're putting skin in the game for this because it will better our community all the way around. And we want all of our citizens to prosper, but it's gonna take a community effort, and it's gonna take persons who are under that threshold of income that we want to raise the median family income, and we want to reduce the poverty rate. But everyone, we use those words early on, willing, able, and motivated. Hopeful. We need people to be hopeful. We need people to be encouraged, and we're going to do that as city government, but we are also grateful for you all as a community, realizing that we can affect this issue in our city. We can make a difference. And so in this first year of just us, and I had a great partner in this initiative. All of City Council was supportive. One thing I will tell people as government leaders, it's hard to get a 7-0 vote. It is very much hard to get a unified vote, but on this issue, everyone was unified about putting the resources together, about the strategy that we put in place. And so to our council members, we're grateful, and we are expecting outcomes and results. That's why we measure, that's why we have web portals that will track information, because everyone, we want to be accountable to the dollars that are spent, as you heard tonight, and just to the work that everyone is putting towards this initiative. So I will go ahead and say it, hopefully without crying. This is Mayor Foster's
Swan song.
Swan song. And it has been an honor
to work with you on this initiative. And I know you're not going away. You're going to be there right with us in the future months and years. But I just want to say thank you for sharing this experience and allowing me to do this work with you. Thank you. Look, we used the chairs long enough.
Oh, my God. Thank you. And she said that thing about hope, and hope is a beautiful thing. Indeed it is. So tonight, even though it may be my swan song, I can go out those doors with such hope in my being that this community is just the best place to be. And that you all sitting in these seats and those listening over the TV and watching make this the best community anyone could ever live in. And I'm convinced that what we're doing here is going to be earth-shattering. I don't know of another community, and I've read a lot about poverty initiatives that has had quite a program like this one, and it came from you all. It didn't come from us government, and I know that was a little unsettling at first that we hadn't mapped out a plan, but we told you government cannot do this. So we started it, and Sterling called me the little fire starter the other night. So we and council, along with an incredible staff, call our city employees, were the fire starters. But you took the fire and you blew life into it, and it is ongoing, and it is a wonderful eternal flame for our community. I know that will burn forever and ever as long as we have a poverty problem in this community. This won't be the last community meeting, and I'll be out there with all those other community meetings that will occur. So thank you. We have food for you, and I'm not going to stand between you and refreshments. So I love you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me this incredible opportunity to serve you, the citizens of Lynchburg. Thank you.